Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the dawn crept in, fragments of light invaded Reese's room, painting his surroundings with a peculiar beauty. He woke with a sense of unease, as if emerging from a deep trance. The previous night's events were a blur, and the last thing he remembered was the bitter taste of his sister Aspen's homemade concoction. Stirring in bed, Reese's confusion deepened as he encountered an unexpected restriction across his chest. Startled, he awoke fully, his bewildered eyes taking in the sight before him. He was enveloped in a vibrant, shimmering gown, his sister's dress, transforming him into a surreal vision of a mermaid on land. The fabric sparkled, casting miniature rainbows across the room, as if mocking his perplexed state. "This can't be." His movement was immediately hindered by something pressing against his chest, and his balance thrown off by an extra 4 inches of height. Glancing down in horror, he discovered his feet encased in silver, strappy heels. A familiar laugh echoed from the doorway. "Good morning, sunshine. Or should I say, Renee?" Aspen stood there, phone in hand, the camera pointed directly at him. "Delete that! Right now!" Reese attempted to lunge toward her, but tangled in the voluminous skirt of the dress and fell back onto the bed. Aspen's smirk widened as she tapped her screen. "Too late. Already backed up to my cloud storage." Reese's hand flew to his face, feeling the unmistakable texture of foundation and powder. His fingers came away with traces of blue eyeshadow and mascara. "What did you do to me?" "Just a little makeover while you were sleeping. Amazing what some sleeping pills in your water can accomplish." Aspen's casual tone made Reese's blood boil. "Remember my Gucci purse? The one you ruined last month with that Merlot?" "That was an accident and you know it." $2,000 down the drain wasn't an accident in my book. Aspen scrolled through her phone. "Wow, you actually look pretty convincing. The blue really brings out your eyes." Reese stumbled to his feet, fighting the constraints of the dress. "Delete those pictures! Now!" "No can do, brother dear. Unless..." Aspen's voice trailed off, her expression morphing into something calculated and dangerous. "Unless what?" Reese's stomach sank, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. "My friend Donna is having a party tonight. Very exclusive. Very important for my social connections." Aspen examined her manicured nails. "And I need a +1. Reese's eyes widened with dawning comprehension. "No, absolutely not." "Then I guess everyone at college will be treated to these lovely photos of you all dolled up." Aspen swiped through several pictures on her phone, each more mortifying than the last. "I especially like this one where you're drooling a little in your sleep. Very attractive." Trapped between humiliations, Reese calculated his options. The photos would follow him forever in the digital age. One night of embarrassment might be the lesser evil. "Fine," he spat. "One party, then you delete everything." "Cross my heart," Aspen replied, not sounding sincere in the slightest. "Now let's get you properly ready. That rushed makeup job won't cut it for tonight." Hours later, Reese sat stiffly in Aspen's vanity chair, watching his transformation with growing disbelief. His brown hair, normally cut short and practical, had been styled with temporary extensions that cascaded past his shoulders in loose waves. Aspen applied foundation, concealer, and powder with practiced precision. "Hold still," she instructed, wielding an eyeliner pencil with surgical focus. Close your eyes. Rhys complied, wondering how his life had spiraled to this point. The cool pencil traced his lash line. You actually have nice features for this, Aspen commented, blending eyeshadow across his lid. Good bone structure, long lashes. Most guys would need falsies, but yours are naturally thick. Fantastic, Rhys muttered, sarcastically. Oh, stop whining. Some of us spend hours achieving what I'm giving you in one session. The makeup continued. Mascara, subtle contour, rosy blush, and a pink-tinted lip gloss that made his mouth look fuller. Aspen stepped back to admire her work. Not bad at all. Now for accessories. She fastened a delicate silver necklace around his neck, the pendant resting just above the modest neckline of the dress. Silver drop earrings were clipped to his earlobes, and a tennis bracelet completed the ensemble. Standing before the full-length mirror, Rhys barely recognized himself. The person reflected back wasn't just him in a dress. It was someone else entirely. Someone who could easily pass as female to the unsuspecting eye.
Who's going to be at this party?
He asked, dreading the answer. Don't worry, nobody from your engineering program, Aspen assured him, adjusting the straps of his dress. Mostly my fashion department friends, some business majors, a few arts people. And what's my cover story? You're Renee, my cousin from out of state, visiting for the weekend. You're considering transferring to our college next semester. Aspen handed him a small silver clutch purse. Your ID and some cash are inside. Don't lose it. The drive to the party was tense. Rhys shifted uncomfortably in the passenger seat, the dress's fabric rustling with each movement. Stop fidgeting, Aspen chided. And remember to keep your knees together when you sit. This is ridiculous. This is consequences. Aspen pulled into a parking space outside a large house already pulsing with music. One night and we're even. Just try not to embarrass me. Stepping out of the car was the first challenge. The heels, while not extremely high, required a different balance than Rhys was accustomed to. He wobbled slightly before finding his footing. Small steps, Aspen instructed under her breath. And stop walking like you're marching to war! Soften your shoulders! They approached the front door, and Rhys's anxiety peaked. The threshold represented a point of no return. Relax, Aspen whispered. You look great. Nobody will know. The door swung open to reveal a crowded living room. Music pounded through strategically placed speakers, and the scent of various perfumes and colognes mingled in the air. Rhys followed Aspen inside, keeping close to avoid getting separated. Aspen! A tall woman with platinum blonde hair approached, drink in hand. You made it. And who's this? Donna, this is my cousin Renee. She's visiting for the weekend. Donna's eyes swept over Rhys appraisingly. That dress is stunning on you. The color matches your eyes perfectly.
Thank you,
Rhys managed, pitching his voice slightly higher. Aspen helped me pick it out. Always the fashionista, Donna laughed. Come in, both of you. Drinks are in the kitchen, and there's a dance floor set up in the back room. As they moved through the crowd, Rhys braced for someone to point and expose him. Instead, people merely smiled, nodded, or ignored him completely. Typical party behavior. Nobody gave him a second glance that suggested suspicion. In the kitchen, Aspen grabbed 2 cups of punch from a crystal bowl. Non-alcoholic for you, she said, handing one to Rhys. I need you coherent tonight. How thoughtful, Rhys replied dryly. They circulated through the party, Aspen introducing Renee to various friends and acquaintances. Each time, Reese expected to be unmasked, but the introductions passed without incident. People accepted him as Aspen's female cousin without question. "Your hair is gorgeous," commented one woman, reaching out to touch a strand. "Is that your natural color?" "Yes," Reese answered truthfully, his brown locks being one of the few genuine things about his appearance tonight. "You're so lucky. I've been trying to achieve that exact shade of chestnut brown for years." The compliments continued throughout the evening. People admired the sparkly blue dress, his natural makeup look, even his posture. The more positive feedback he received, the more Reese relaxed into the role. He found himself adopting mannerisms he'd observed in Aspen and her friends, tucking hair behind his ear, gesturing more expressively with his hands, allowing his voice to carry more melody. An hour into the party, Aspen disappeared with some friends, leaving Reese to fend for himself. Surprisingly, he managed just fine. He found himself in conversation with a group discussing the merits of various streaming services, offering opinions without fear of his voice giving him away. "Renee, come dance!" A woman from Aspen's fashion program grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the back room where furniture had been cleared for dancing. Reese hesitated. "I'm not really. Everyone's dancing! Don't be shy!" Before he could protest further, Reese found himself in the middle of a group of women moving to the beat of a popular song. He awkwardly attempted to mimic their movements, feeling painfully self-conscious. "Loosen up!" Someone shouted over the music. Taking a deep breath, Reese allowed himself to feel the rhythm. The dress swirled around his legs as he moved, the fabric catching the light. There was something freeing about being anonymous in this crowd, about being someone else for one night. The song changed to something slower, and people coupled up. Reese took the opportunity to slip away to the kitchen for water. The heels were beginning to pinch, and he needed a moment to compose himself. "Not a fan of slow dancing." Reese turned to find a tall man with dark hair leaning against the counter beside him.
"Not particularly."
Reese answered cautiously.
"Me neither. Too much pressure to not step on toes."
The man extended his hand.
"I'm Calvin, friend of Donna's brother. Renee, Aspen's cousin."
Reese shook his hand, relieved when Calvin didn't seem to notice anything unusual about his grip.
"You visiting from far?" "A few hours away, considering transferring here next semester."
Calvin nodded.
"It's a good school. What's your major?"
Reese hesitated.
"Still deciding. Maybe engineering." He immediately regretted referencing his actual field. "No way! That's my department. What branch are you interested in?" "Mechanical."
Reese answered truthfully, finding it easier to stick close to reality. "That's my specialty. If you transfer, look me up. The department could use more women. It's still pretty male-dominated." The irony wasn't lost on Reese. "I'll keep that in mind." Their conversation continued, touching on classes, professors, and campus life. Reese found himself genuinely engaged, forgetting momentarily about his unusual circumstances. Calvin was intelligent and well-spoken, and Reese caught himself thinking they might have become friends under normal circumstances.
"Would you want to grab coffee sometime this weekend?" Calvin asked. "I could show you around campus, give you the unofficial tour."
Reese froze. This had gone too far.
"I'm actually heading back tomorrow morning. Early flight."
"That's too bad." Calvin looked genuinely disappointed.
"Well, if you decide to transfer, my offer stands."
"Thanks. I appreciate it." Calvin was called away by friends, leaving Reese alone with his thoughts. The evening had taken an unexpected turn. Not only had no one recognized him, but he'd been fully accepted as a woman. There was something both terrifying and fascinating about that realization. Aspen appeared at his side. "Having fun playing hard to get with Calvin? You know him?" "Everyone knows Calvin. Engineering genius, campus heartthrob, total catch." Aspen smirked. "And apparently into you. This isn't funny, Aspen. He thinks I'm a prospective student. Relax. You'll never see him again after tonight." Aspen checked her watch. "Speaking of which, it's getting late. Ready to go?" Relief washed over Reese. "More than ready." They said their goodbyes, receiving several invitations for Renee to visit again soon. In the car, Reese slouched in the passenger seat, exhaustion overtaking him. "You were a hit," Aspen commented, starting the engine. "Everyone loved you." "They loved Renee," Reese corrected. "Not me." "Same difference tonight." The drive home was quiet, both siblings lost in their thoughts. When they arrived, Reese headed straight for the bathroom to remove the makeup and extensions. "Wait!" Aspen called, following him. "Let me help. You'll damage your skin scrubbing like that." She guided him to her vanity, where she gently removed each layer of his disguise. First the jewelry, then the extensions, finally the makeup with special cleansers and cotton pads. "Why are you being nice now?" Reese asked, suspiciously. Aspen's expression softened. "Because you came through for me tonight. You could have been a disaster, embarrassed me in front of everyone, but you played along, even when I left you alone." The last traces of mascara disappeared, revealing Reese's natural face once more. Yet somehow, he didn't feel entirely like himself again. "We're even now," Aspen stated, standing up. "I'll delete the photos." "All of them? Including backups?" "All of them." She held up her phone, showing him as she deleted the folder. "Consider your debt paid." Reese nodded, too tired for words. He changed back into his own clothes, grateful for the familiar comfort of jeans and a t-shirt. The sparkly blue dress hung in Aspen's closet once more, its brief adventure as his costume concluded. But as he lay in bed that night, sleep eluded him. The events of the evening replayed in his mind. The compliments, the conversations, the easy acceptance he'd received. There had been something unexpectedly liberating about being someone else for a night, about stepping outside the constraints of his usual identity. Morning brought clarity and confusion in equal measure. Reese went about his routine, shower, breakfast, checking emails, but found his thoughts continually drifting back to the previous night, to Renee. 3 days passed in this strange limbo of thought. Reese attended classes, worked on assignments, met with friends. But underneath it all ran a current of questioning he couldn't quite silence. On the 4th day, he found himself outside Aspen's door, hand raised to knock. "Come in!" she called from inside. Aspen sat cross-legged on her bed, laptop open before her. She looked up, surprised to see him hovering in the doorway. "Everything okay?" Reese took a deep breath. "I need to talk to you about something." Setting aside her computer, Aspen made room for him on the bed. "You're being weird. What's up?" "The party," Reese began, struggling to form the thoughts that had been circling his mind. "Being Renee." "If you're worried about the pictures, I really did delete them all." "It's not that." Reese stared at his hands. "I can't stop thinking about how it felt." Aspen's expression shifted from confusion to understanding. "Oh. Yeah. And how did it feel?" Her voice held no judgment, only curiosity. Reese considered the question carefully.
Right,
he finally answered.
It felt right in a way I can't explain. Like I was more myself as Renee than I've ever been as Reese.
Silence filled the room as Aspen absorbed his words. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Want to talk about it more? She offered. That conversation lasted hours, stretching from afternoon into evening. Reese articulated feelings he'd suppressed for years: discomfort with his body, disconnection from traditional masculinity, the strange sense of recognition he'd experienced in the blue dress. So, what now? Aspen asked when they'd exhausted the topic.
What do you want to do with this realization?
Reese didn't have a clear answer.
I don't know.
Explore it, I guess. See if it was just a one-time thing or something more. I can help with that, Aspen offered. No pictures this time, no blackmail, just exploration. The following weeks became a journey of discovery. Aspen helped Reese experiment with different expressions of gender, sometimes subtle, like growing out his brown hair or incorporating more androgynous clothing into his wardrobe, sometimes more overt, like full makeup and feminine attire in the privacy of their apartment. Each experiment brought greater clarity. The person emerging wasn't Reese pretending to be someone else, but rather someone new who had always existed beneath the surface. Someone who felt authentic in a way Reese never had. A month after the party, Renee made her first public appearance by choice, not at a stranger's gathering, but at a small coffee shop across town where neither sibling was known. Dressed in a casual blue blouse and jeans, brown hair styled in soft waves, Renee ordered a latte and sat by the window, observing the world from this new perspective. No one stared. No one questioned. People simply went about their business, accepting the woman in the blue blouse as part of the everyday landscape. The experience was both mundane and profound. How does it feel? Aspen asked when they returned home. Like breathing properly for the first time, Renee answered. The transition that followed wasn't without challenges. Telling their parents required courage. Neither sibling was sure Renee possessed, but when the moment came, she found strength in her newfound authenticity. Their mother cried, not from disappointment, but from recognition of the struggles her child must have endured. Their father was quieter, but his eventual embrace spoke volumes. Friends reacted with varying degrees of surprise and support. Some drifted away, uncomfortable with the change. Others embraced Renee with unexpected warmth. New friendships formed with people who knew only Renee, never Reese. Legally changing her name was a bureaucratic marathon, but signing the final document brought a sense of official recognition that validated her journey. Renee Morgan, no longer Reese, existed on paper as well as in person. Medical transition followed its own timeline: consultations, therapist appointments, hormone prescriptions. The changes came gradually: softening skin, subtle redistribution of weight, the emotional landscape shifting in ways both challenging and illuminating. Through it all, Aspen remained a constant support, though both sisters acknowledged the irony that such a positive transformation had begun as an act of revenge. "Do you ever regret ruining my purse?" Aspen asked one evening as they sorted through Renee's expanding wardrobe. "Never," Renee answered with a grin. "Best mistake I ever made." 6 months after the party, Renee received an email from the engineering department confirming her enrollment status for the upcoming semester. She had decided to continue her education, not as a transfer student, but as herself, a woman pursuing her passion for mechanical engineering. On the first day of classes, She chose her outfit carefully, a royal blue blouse that brought out her eyes, dark jeans, and comfortable flats. Her brown hair, now grown past her shoulders, was pulled back in a practical ponytail. The woman who gazed back from the mirror looked confident, authentic, and wholly herself. The campus felt both familiar and new as Renee navigated her way to the engineering building. She had walked these paths countless times before, but never as her true self. The freedom of it made her steps lighter. Entering the classroom, she scanned for an empty seat, settling near the front. Other students filtered in, the typical mix of nervous freshmen and confident returning students. Renee opened her notebook, ready to begin this new chapter. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Renee looked up, recognition dawning immediately. Calvin stood beside the adjacent desk, the same Calvin from Donna's party. He didn't show any sign of recognizing her.
"It's free,"
she replied, gesturing to the chair.
"Thanks."
He sat down, extending his hand.
"I'm Calvin, third-year mechanical."
"Renee," she answered, shaking his hand. "First-year transfer." Calvin tilted his head slightly.
"Have we met before? You seem familiar."
Renee considered her options in that moment. She could deny it, pretend they'd never met, or she could embrace the full circle moment the universe had apparently arranged. "Actually, yes," she said with a small smile. "At a party about 6 months ago, you offered to show me around campus if I transferred." Recognition dawned in his eyes. "Aspen's cousin! I remember now. You did transfer after all." "Something like that," Renee replied. "Well, my offer still stands for that campus tour. The engineering department really could use more women." This time, there was no irony in the statement, just truth. "I'd like that," Renee answered. The professor entered, calling the class to attention. As the lecture began, Renee felt a profound sense of rightness. Her journey had been unconventional, beginning with a ruined purse and an act of revenge. But the destination, this classroom, this identity, this authentic life, was exactly where she was meant to be. That evening, Renee recounted her encounter with Calvin to an amused Aspen. "So, he didn't realize you were the same person he met before?" Aspen asked, pouring wine for both of them. White this time, no risk to designer purses. "I think he recognized Renee, but had no connection to Reese." Renee swirled the wine in her glass. "Which makes sense. They're different people." "Are they?" Aspen raised an eyebrow. "Or was Renee always there, just waiting for the right sparkly blue dress to make her appearance?" Renee considered the question. "Maybe a bit of both. The dress was your revenge, but what came after was all me." "To unintended consequences," Aspen proposed, raising her glass. "And authentic lives," Renee added, completing the toast. The semester unfolded with its expected challenges and unexpected joys. Renee excelled in her classes, her previous education providing a solid foundation despite the personal transformation that had occurred between terms. She made new friends among the small cohort of women in engineering, finding camaraderie in their shared experiences of navigating a male-dominated field. Calvin became a constant presence in her academic life, study partner, unofficial tutor, friend. Their coffee shop tours expanded to include the entire campus, then the surrounding city. Renee never explicitly told him about her past identity, but she shared enough of her journey that he understood the significance of her presence in the program.
"You're breaking barriers,"
he told her one afternoon as they worked through problem sets in the library.
"Not everyone would have the courage to be themselves in this environment."
I didn't always have the courage, Renee admitted. Sometimes it takes a push to discover who you really are. Well, I'm glad you found your way here. The genuine warmth in his voice caused Renee to look up from her equations. The person she saw looking back at her wasn't someone who knew her as Aspen's cousin or as a former version of herself. He simply knew her as Renee, student, engineer, woman. And in that knowledge was acceptance more complete than she could have imagined on that first night in the sparkly blue dress. 1 year to the day after the fateful party, Renee stood before her closet, contemplating the sparkly blue dress that hung in its depths. Aspen had gifted it to her officially, a marker of the journey they'd shared. Planning to wear it tonight? Aspen asked, leaning against the doorframe of Renee's bedroom. Just remembering, Renee replied. Hard to believe everything that's happened in a year. From revenge to revelation. Aspen approached, touching the sparkly fabric. Funny how life works out. Renee nodded, closing the closet door. The dress would remain there, not as a disguise or a costume, but as a memento of transformation. She no longer needed it to be herself. Instead, she chose a different blue dress for the evening, simpler, more elegant, but with the same color that had always brought out her eyes. Her brown hair, now long enough to style in various ways, was arranged in soft waves around her shoulders. The woman who gazed back from the mirror was wholly herself. Not Reese pretending, not Renee playing a part, but simply Renee Morgan, authentic and complete. As she applied the finishing touches to her makeup, a text from Calvin illuminated her phone. Ready when you are.
Excited for tonight.
Their relationship had evolved gradually from academic colleagues to friends to something more nuanced. Tonight marked their first official date, dinner at a restaurant overlooking the city lights. Nervous? Aspen asked, watching Renee gather her purse. A little, Renee admitted. But the good kind of nervous, the kind that comes with living honestly. Aspen hugged her sister tightly. Who would have thought my revenge would end up being the best thing that ever happened to you? I still maintain you overreacted about the purse, Renee teased, and I still maintain it was worth every penny. Aspen stepped back, her eyes suspiciously bright. Now go. Don't keep him waiting. As Renee stepped out into the evening, she carried with her not just the confidence of someone who knew their worth, but the profound peace of someone who had found their truth. The journey from Reese to Renee had begun with humiliation, but had transformed into liberation. The sparkly blue dress remained in her closet, a reminder of beginnings. But the woman walking confidently toward her future needed no costume. She was, at last and forever, simply herself.
Thanks for watching my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!